Okay, I think we can get going at this point. Um, so we've got this last section here called Next Steps, and then after that we'll move on to the bootstrapping session, which is meant to be a bit more interactive with all of us, getting going with using ARCHER2. Before we start just here, I would just like to note, firstly, that the videos for yesterday's session are now up on the course page on the ARCHER2 website. Those are the videos from yesterday. I think they were up this morning, but they're definitely available now if you want to go back and watch anything from yesterday again. Of course, that's alongside the link to the material, this web page, this website itself. Also, there should now be feedback links available on that page. So if you have any feedback at all that you would like to give, whether positive or negative, please do feel free to go there and pass that along to us so that we can use that to improve the course for the future. And also, if anyone attending needs a certificate of attendance, we can provide those. You should email the service desk, which we'll be talking about in just a second anyway, and you'll be able to request those there. Okay, so let's get going with this final structured session for the course. So this is about how to move forwards into the future, how to expand your knowledge of the system, how to get more help, and that ways that you can access ARCHER2. I just mentioned the ARCHER2 service desk. This is really your first point of call. It's the easiest way to get in touch with someone working on the service. You can email this address here, support@archer2.ac.uk. That will come in to the service desk operator, who is someone from EPCC who works on it. Tomorrow morning, that's actually going to be me. So hello, if any of you happen to email in tomorrow morning, I'll be able to say hello to you then. And we can put any queries you have, so any requests or any issues you may be having, we can put you in touch with the right people to help you out with them. If it's something fairly simple, we can help you out ourselves. Something to note is that that's part of so ARCHER2 is actually made up of a few different services. HPE Cray, of course, provide the hardware itself and the system software that runs on ARCHER2. Then there's the ARCHER2 service provision, or SP service. This includes the running of the service desk, as well as provision of the site it runs on. That's run by EPCC. And EPCC also run the CSE service, which is the Computational Science and Engineering service, which is the service in this case who are actually providing this training course. So if you get in touch with the service desk and are having issues with running your code, with building your code, you need help debugging it, or perhaps you're running into issues while it's running, you're getting strange memory leaks, or scaling is proving an issue when it shouldn't be, you can get in touch with the service desk, and in that case, your query would be put through to the CSE service, and we would provide you with an in-depth handler in all likelihood, and they would be able to get back to you, and you'd then be able to start a dialogue on solving these issues. You can also, if you would like, ask for a callback. You can just include a request for that in your email. What would then happen would be a member of the CSE service team would probably get back to you asking when would be a good time for you, and you would be able to set up together a call, probably over Microsoft Teams, when you can meet, screen share anything that is relevant, and work together to maybe not solve the issue, but at least get a good starting point in place to enable hopefully a speedier resolution for you of whatever the issue may be. Of course, we also have the documentation. I've mentioned at a few points through the course. There are really several parts to it, some quick start guides, which are just quick surface level introductions on getting logged in and getting using the pre-installed software from Cray and from CSE, and also helping you to get going with your own code. You've then got a user and best practice guide, which covers everything in more depth. If you really want to start digging into more details of how to use the software that's available, use the programming environments. Yeah, goes into more technical aspects rather than just giving you a surface level view of how to use the system. We then provide some information on the research software and libraries that are available. So these are our, sorry, that should be a modular veil. These are things like our nectars and one-teps, our CP2Ks, the simulation packages that we have, as well as some of the libraries that we've also installed to support scientific software. And there's also some information on using the safe. So let's just quickly go there and take a look. Let's open a new tab for the documentation. So here's just the main page. You can also get here through the ARCHER2 website at archer2.ac.uk. You just take a look at the quick start guide. Find there are 2 pages, quick start for users. So these are people who will be mainly just logging in, running a module load on VASP or CP2K, and then running jobs. And then a quick start for developers, so more about the software development environment, more about the sort of thing we've been talking about in this course. So we can just quickly take a look through here. A lot of this is the sort of thing you'll know, information on how to get your account, to log in, details on the file systems, using the modules, and then some basic job submission scripts and how to send them through to the queue and monitor them. For developers, some more about the compiler wrappers, the programming environments, linking, debugging, profiling, more about the sort of thing we've been talking about. And of course, as well, we've got, well, there's now 4 cabinets to full ARCHER2 migration guide. If you do have data on the 4 cabinet system, if you've been a user there, this can be helpful to you if you want to know how to get your data and applications across. There's also a page telling you about the differences, porting the applications. Something that's quite nice is we found that a lot of the binaries that have been built on the 4cab actually work essentially out of the box on the full system as well. The linker is able to work out where the required libraries are, and in a lot of cases that will just work. But you may also want to rebuild with the new versions of the system software anyway on the full system, just to make sure you're taking advantage of everything there. We list some known issues. These are always being updated. So you can see we attach the dates to them to tell you when these problems have been identified, provide workarounds until the underlying problems can be solved. And we also note which systems they apply to, because the 4-cabinet and 23-cabinet systems are now pretty different in terms of the versions of software that are installed there. Also got some frequently asked questions. Research software, I'll quickly just show you. You can see here, if you want to know how to use, let's say, lamps, you can quickly come here, see about some information about the installation, and see some example scripts for running it, as well as a link to a GitHub page with the information, instructions on how it was built, if you'd like to make your own builds, perhaps with slightly different options. Do the same for software libraries. We can see how to use, let's just pick something, let's just look at FFTW. You don't really need to know much because it's a Cray module, so just load it and the Cray compiler wrappers will automatically bring in the correct flags to the compiler for it to be linked into whatever's being built. Do some more data analysis tools, ParaView, R, and Visordata. Doing some essential skills. The biggest section is the user and best practice guide, I think. So here we cover just about everything on the system in terms of how to use it in detail. So the connecting to Archer session is a lot more in depth than was in the overview, for example. 5 different pages for the software environment. As I mentioned, they're different enough that this is probably easier than having a single page to refer to both. So you can come here and see a little about how to work through the new LMOD system there. Then we find more information, how to run jobs. So this is where you'd come if you want to see all the ways on how to run potentially very different types of jobs. So we cover the things that there aren't really enough time for in this course here. You can see about chaining jobs, running job arrays, running multiple sub-jobs, job steps they're called, within a single job. So you can have multiple parallel tasks launched from within the same job script. Heterogeneous jobs. I think people who particularly use this are people who run coupled codes that need to communicate with one another. This seems to happen a lot for people running atmospheric and oceanic models that need to couple together. And just general information about best practices. You can look up the different partitions and the different QoSs. And then more, again, about the application development environment. So you can look up how to access the different compilers again, see how to access the man pages, useful options to use with the different compilers. This is handy because as they are 3 different, you'll always be using the same compiler wrappers, but the compilers being used by the compiler wrappers do change. So being aware of the different options is handy. You can see it's pretty complete, and I would recommend coming here. And we try our best to keep everything up to date as we discover any issues or come across anything new which might be helpful for you, the users. Training, you probably don't need me to tell you that we offer training, given we're in a course at the moment, but we try to run a certain number of courses every quarter or so of the year. they come in a few different flavors, really. We have a couple of introductions for users. This is the introduction for developers course, but we do also run an introduction for package users. So the people who don't really care so much about how to use the compilers and the debugging and profiling tools. We also offer some courses on using different packages efficiently on ARCHER2. These will sometimes be run by the developers of these packages. So you would be hearing in those cases directly from the people who know the most about that software. We also run some carpentry courses, software and data carpentry you might all be interested in. These help you to improve your skills under those topics. We also do run an HPC carpentry course, which is aimed at people who haven't really used HPC before but would like to learn how. For you, I suspect this is perhaps less useful. I think probably everyone here has at least some experience, if not a good amount of experience, using HPC resources. But perhaps you have colleagues who maybe would like to get going. So if there's an upcoming HPC carpentry course, that could potentially be of use to them. Another one that we just started running last year is Reproducible Computational Environments Using Containers, which is, I think, a good introduction to slightly newer technology. We did mention Singularity Containers a little yesterday. Someone asked a question about them. Some of you probably have never used them before. You've probably all at least heard of them. If you have never used them before and would like to try it out, this would be a nice way to do it. You start off using Docker, which is the way of the container software that everyone knows of. Just to quickly build some software in a container, run it on your own system, and then as the course progresses, you then move on to using Singularity, which is the container software that we run on HPC systems. Docker itself isn't suited really at all for using on HPC systems for a few reasons. Security and the ability to run massively parallel jobs through them is really the main things. But really the skills that you learn with either Docker or Singularity, you can transfer in large part over to the other. So if you're at all interested in in creating portable containers to make applications portable across different systems with comparatively minimal effort, and to allow them to still run in parallel on a system like ARCHER2, you may find this interesting, and all of them can be read about on the ARCHER2 training pages. Let's just quickly open that. You can see the upcoming courses here, right through to, these are all the ones happening this quarter, I guess, and links to register. And of course, you can also see the course repositories with everything that's happened in the past. So you'll be able to, once this course is finished, come to this page and find the link for the 29th and 30th of November 2021 instance of the Introduction to ARCHER2 for Developers course. And check the material and check the recordings for that. Now we move on to how to get access to ARCHER2 for your research. So I imagine that some of you, probably all of you, have got access to it in some way at the moment. I imagine that's probably why you're interested. But if you haven't, or if you would be interested in applying yourself for more time on ARCHER2 to start a new project, there are a few different routes we offer to get you access to the system. So the very simplest way is via the ARCHER2 driving test. Now, I'm not certain if this is actually running yet. Let's find out. Yes, so available early 2022. So this will be starting soon, now that the full system is available. That's just going to be a short quiz. It's a way of bringing people up to speed on using HPC. Just tests you on how to work in a Linux-based, command line-based environment using Bash, working with the shared resources. So again, testing your knowledge to make sure you know things like not to run big jobs on the compute nodes and the login nodes and the like, how to write batch scripts, and how to work in a module system. Probably you all would breeze through that, and then just once that's been done and you pass, you would then be given some small amount of time to use the system. I'm not certain of the amount. It's not huge, certainly, but I don't think it's tiny, but a small amount of time. We can talk about why that could be useful in a second. The routes to go through if you want to get access to really meaningful amounts of time are to apply through one of these four routes here. So if you're a member of a scientific consortium, for example, UKCTRF or UKTC, you can often get time within the remit of that consortium. That relies on you being, that relies on you working in that consortium's remit. We also offer pump priming access, which gives you small amounts of time to get your code built and then to try doing some test runs, do some scaling runs or the like. So this can be used kind of similarly to the time that you might get from the ARCHER2 driving test. If perhaps you just want time enough to get some scaling information, which you could use as proof, as evidence in application for a lot of time, which would be the last two methods here, which are via research grants, so through your research council. So that depends on which body you would go through, or through a UKRI access to HPC resource call. Both of these give you lots of time, but you will have to provide as part of your application evidence that the work you want to do will scale well at the job size that you want to use. So that's where getting time from one of these smaller, easier methods, such as pump priming, can be handy, because that gets you time to do those tests and obtain the evidence that what you want to do is a good use of resources at the scale you want to work at. And you can check these again at the ARCHER2 access page. You just get through the top there, and we link now to the various bodies which grant access. So this is generally the first step. You'll have to provide a technical assessment form. This is where you would provide the scaling evidence that what you want to do will run at the job size you're talking about. This would come through to the service desk. You would have to send it to us, and we would then check it, make sure everything's okay, maybe provide suggestions for improvement to help you get that award, and then we would send it back to you for you to complete your application. We also offer the eCSE route. So this is embedded CSE. So CSE member is Computational Science and Engineering. This gets you funding essentially for a decent length project to improve or add functionality to your software to be run on ARCHER2. So you might imagine, perhaps you are a developer of some simulation code and you want to run it on ARCHER2, and you think that perhaps a good few people would benefit from this. You would benefit from being able to run it on ARCHER2, but you think it could scale a lot better, perhaps. Let's just imagine this is the scenario. So you would like to be able to spend time and money getting your code to scale to larger node counts on ARCHER2. You would, if you wanted to, be able to apply for an ECSE project, and you would be able to ask for funding for a staff member to work on your code for perhaps up to a year or perhaps 2 years, working some number of person months on the code to get you that added functionality, or or to get those improvements in place on your code. The staff member doing the work, or staff members doing the technical work, could be someone who works in your research group. It could be anyone who has the ability to do it. If you don't have anyone to hand who's willing to do that work, but you would still like to do it, you can also ask for someone from EPCC on the CSC team to also join your project to do that work for you. And let's just quickly look at that page. So there are calls for this a few times every year. It requires you to provide, well, quite a lot more information now, as I'm sure you can imagine, because you're actually asking for funding now to have people work on your code. One call has just ended. I believe we have another one soon. Okay, so there's another call opening on the 7th of December. So if you do have a code that you think could use some work, could benefit in this way, I'd encourage you to come and take a look at this page. Very finally here, it's helpful again when convincing people that providing funding for these large computer systems is worthwhile. If any output you publish which has used something from ARCHER2, some output from ARCHER2, if you could include in your acknowledgements a statement like this, just to say this was useful, and that will help in that aspect. And if you could also tag output with ARCHER2, that would also be helpful. So we have a lot of documentation. We kind of skimmed through a lot of it. Training is there, so I'd say please go ahead and take a look at what's coming up. If you think any of it could be useful, absolutely please go ahead. The service is there to help you learn more, and then hopefully get more and better research done through use of ARCHER2. And also there are a good number of different routes available, both for getting projects on ARCHER2 to be allocated, for getting resources allocated to you to run the jobs that you need to get done, and also through the ECSE program to help fund people to work on your codes and add functionality, improve their scaling, improve their reliability. So please do go ahead, take a look, and if any of that looks useful for you, I would strongly recommend it to you go ahead and apply or join the course and make use of it, because it's there to help you. Okay, and with that, we're on to the final bootstrapping section of the course. So we'll be doing this now for the next 2 hours until 4 o'clock. This is, I'd say, a slightly more interactive session. You've hopefully got a good idea now of how to get onto the system, access the modules that you need to make available the software that you need to use when building your codes, how to change between the different tool chains, and then to get compiling, then how to run the jobs, how to debug and profile those jobs. So from now on, we've kind of got a few options for you. So if you'd like to just talk with us, so I'm still here and we still have Eleanor and Larissa here as helpers. You can chat with us. If necessary, we can go into breakout rooms for more private talks about how your workflow works and how it would fit onto ARCHER2. If you'd like to talk more about getting access or how to get support for your work on ARCHER2, we're all available to talk about that. Or if you'd like to actually do something a little more practical, we've got 2 other options. One is that you can absolutely get started if you would like. If you have codes waiting to go onto ARCHER2 to be built and run there, you can get going with that, and we're all available to provide immediate help, I would say, unless we're all being held up with other questions, but we're here now to help you with it if you would like. Or if you would just like to try messing around, I suppose, just doing something different, Gromacs is a piece of software. It's a simulation package installed on ARCHER2 through a central module. So you can just module load Gromacs and get going with it. We have an input file available, which you can download from the website straight onto ARCHER2. So you can get going trying to write a job script for it to send it off to the compute nodes to run. And then you can change the number of nodes to start doing benchmarking for it. You can try to, if you like, come up with a good resource choice for it. So you would work out at what point does it stop scaling well, and that would be the basis for your request if you are applying for time on ARCHER2. And you can also try to change the number of threads or cores per node. You can try using SMT if you like. You might get some interesting results, but it could be interesting to look at that. These are all options available for you. So if any of you have any questions or would like to just get going with any of these options, please do so.